Hey guys, so I want you to close your eyes just for a second and really picture this with me, okay? So you're driving down a dark, empty highway late at night with your whole family in the truck and your wife in the passenger seat. The two little kids are finally asleep in the back and everything feels totally normal, quiet, peaceful, right? Then out of nowhere, the radio starts cutting in and out with static. The dashboard lights begin dimming and surging. The headlights are doing the same thing. And this thick, unnatural fog just rolls in and swallows the whole entire road, okay? And then your wife looks up and says, kind of nervously, "Babe, what is that bright light coming toward us?" And then you glance over and at first you think, oh man, maybe a plane having some kind of emergency. And then you kind of feel your heart starts pounding, you know? So you pull over to the shoulder to get out of the way. And that's when this enormous, completely silent disc, easily the size of 2 or 3 football fields, slowly drops out of the fog and just hovers right above your truck. You can see strange geometric symbols all across the bottom, glowing faintly. So there's no engine, just the slow, rhythmic hum that you feel in your chest. The static electricity is so strong that your hair is literally standing up on your arms. Even inside the cab, your kids somehow sleep through it all. But your wife is whispering, "What is going on?" And you're just frozen, trying to make sense of something that doesn't match anything you ever seen in 20 years of military service. Then, in the blink of an eye, it rotates slightly and shoots straight up through the clouds and disappears faster than anything human could ever move. And when the shock finally starts to wear off, you look at the clock and almost 3 hours are just gone, completely missing. And the very next night, you wake up standing in a motel bathroom with lights blazing, a pen clenched in your hand, and drawing these perfect grids of squares and lines of a paper with absolutely no memory of getting out of bed or doing any of that. This isn't a movie, and this actually happened to a 20 years US Army veteran named Jeremy Weeks in June 2015. And when experts finally decoded those drawings he was unconsciously producing, they turned out to be layered binary messages warning about the end of humanity's protection, threats from specific star system, and the urgent need to expose hidden knowledge before something catastrophic takes over. And Jeremy stayed anonymous for years, going by the name CJ, to protect his family, but now he's ready to tell the full story and with his real name and voice. So buckle up, because this one builds slowly but hits hard and leaves you questioning everything. Let's dive in.
Describing an underwater UFO as large as a football field, moving at hundreds of miles per hour underwater.
Have you met with people with direct knowledge or have direct knowledge yourself of non-human origin craft?
Yes, I personally interviewed those individuals.
Do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
Biologics came with some of these recoveries, yeah.
Aliens exist and President Trump knows about it.
The United States and Israel have been in contact with a group of aliens for years.
I'd go to the moon in a nanosecond. The problem is we don't have the technology to do that anymore. We used to, but we destroyed that technology.
We are not all to be traced back to one blob of germplasm.
And the implant is finally removed.
There's no evidence how the object got inside the body.
Can you comment on the drones?
Our military knows where they took off from. Something strange is going on. For some reason, they don't want to tell the people.
What storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
So who's Jeremy Weeks? Jeremy Weeks served 20 full years in the army and retired as a sergeant first class, right? And his job was field artillery. He was a radar specialist, and that means he spent years out in the field tracking incoming threats, basically, and working with advanced signals, intelligence, deploying to places like Iraq, South Korea, Germany, and Poland. So he's seen things overseas that he still can't discuss because of NDAs and such things, right? After retiring, he went into defense contracting, traveling the world, fixing high-end radar systems for companies, tied to names like Lockheed Martin. And this is someone who spent his entire adult life around serious technology and real-world pressure. Honestly, He's the last person you expect to end up in the middle of something like this. He wasn't into UFOs at all. In fact, he kind of steered clear of the whole topic. Until one night in 2015, when the topic came looking for him. So again, let's set the scene properly, guys. It's June 29th, 2015. Jeremy's on leave, moving the family from Georgia up to Colorado Springs for his next duty station, alright? They've got the wife, 2 kids to make the drive easier. They decided to travel at night. Fewer cars on the road, kids can sleep, everybody's happy. You know the deal, right? Okay, so they leave around 8 in the evening. Everything's going smooth. They're probably somewhere in the Carolinas or just into Virginia. So the exact stretch gets a little hazy later. There's a reason for that. Around midnight though, the night takes a turn. First, this dense fog appears out of nowhere. So thick that visibility drops to maybe 20 or 30 feet in front of the truck. And Jeremy slows way down, being careful with the trailer. Then the truck itself starts acting strange. So the dashboard's lights dim, then flare super bright. The headlights are doing the same thing, surging and fading. He flips through the radio stations and everything's static, you know? And even the satellite, which usually works anywhere, cuts out completely. His wife looks up from her phone or whatever and says, "Hey, do you see that bright light over there?" Jeremy glances over and sees this intense white glow coming towards them. At first he thinks it's maybe an airplane, maybe having engine trouble or trying to make an emergency landing. And through his training, his instincts kick in and he doesn't want to be in the way if something's going down. So he pulls over onto the shoulder and, you know, looks over and stops the truck and puts it in park. The light keeps coming closer, but now he can tell it's not behaving like any plane he's ever seen. You know, no wings, no blinking, navigation lights, no red and green markers, just pure blinding white. It slows down, levels off and glides silently right over the top of their truck. Maybe 50 yards up close enough to make out details. And that's when it really hits him. How massive this thing is. 200 to 250 feet across, shaped kind of like an oblong football, perfectly smooth metallic silver with no seams, no rivets, no visible engines. There's the shimmering field all around it, swirling colors like oil, you know, on water, pinks, purples, almost like plasma. The light pouring down isn't even attached to the craft, it's floating a few feet below the bottom, detached. Every now and then you see little sparks shooting off the rear, like static discharge or something like that. And then underneath the whole thing, there are these sharp geometric symbols, not like any writing we use, more like advanced circuitry or ancient hieroglyphs mixed together, you know? So Jeremy would later say some of them looked very similar to symbols reported years after on that strange sphere recovered in Mexico, so the Booger sphere. I think you know of that. The only sound is this low pulsating hum that vibrates through the truck. And the static charge is so strong that everyone's hair standing straight up, even inside the cab, you know? And the kids miraculously stay asleep though. But his wife is getting more and more freaked out and is whispering questions he can't answer. So Jeremy is in full defense mode. He's a trained observer and he's seen classified aircraft. So he knows what normal and even secret stuff looks like. This matches nothing he's ever seen before. So he's leaning forward, right? Window down, straining to hear an engine noise, scanning for anything that could identify it. Nothing. Just that hum and the overwhelming presence of this thing hovering right above them. Then almost as suddenly as it arrived, it tilts slightly toward the northeast, accelerates upward, punches a hole straight through the clouds and then vanishes in a blur, faster than the eye can track. You know, just like... The fog starts to lift almost immediately. They sit there in the stunned silence for a minute, trying to process what just happened. And eventually, They pull back onto the highway, still shaken, talking in low voices about what they both just witnessed. A few miles down the road, they stop at a gas station to stretch and grab some drinks. And then when Jeremy steps out of the truck, he feels completely drained, like he's been behind the wheel for days without a break or something like this, you know? His legs are shaky, weak, almost like he's getting his land legs back after being at sea or something. His wife steps out and said the exact same thing before he can even mention it. Like, I feel like I've been trapped in this truck forever. Like, they notice other people at the station talking about seeing a bright streak or possible space debris. Jeremy knows that's not what they experienced, but it's comforting to know others saw something unusual as well around the same time. Then comes the moment that really makes their stomachs drop. So they check the time and realize that a stretch of road that should have taken an hour, maybe 90 minutes at most, has somehow eaten up almost 3 full hours. So by the time they roll into Atlanta, the sun is coming up and they find a hotel and crash. But neither of them can really sleep deeply, obviously. So it's restless, uneasy, like their bodies are still on high alert, you know? And the next night, they stop in Paducah, Kentucky. Jeremy is absolutely exhausted and passes out almost as soon as his head hits the pillow, you know? And sometime in the night then, he wakes up, not in the bed, but standing in the brightly lit up bathroom. Pen gripped tightly in his hand, you know? And he's drawing intricate grids of squares and lines on the back of the motel receipt. And he has zero recollection of getting up or starting to draw. Like, he stares at it for a second and writes WTF underneath and stumbles back to bed. And honestly, at that point he tries to brush it off as some weird sleepwalking episode, you know, brought on by stress and exhaustion. But deep down, something feels very off. And it doesn't stop there, because over the following weeks and months, it keeps happening. Jeremy would wake up in the middle of the night already drawing these precise patterns, boxes, connected by lines, some filled in, solid, some just outlined, and some lines thick, some thin. And yeah, his wife even reminded him of like something that happened before the road trip, you know, like back in Georgia. She once found him on the bathroom floor in the middle of the night, completely out of it, chanting 010, super fast like a binary code or something. And then she said she tried to write it down but couldn't keep up with how quickly he was saying it, you know. So Jeremy had no background in computers or coding, stuff like that, whatsoever. He didn't even really use binary in his radar work, so this was completely out of left field. So, and on the advice of researcher Linda Moulton Howe, he started keeping a date journal of every episode. So the pages filled up fast, and Linda immediately saw similarities to the famous Rendlesham Forest case from 1980, where Air Force Sergeant Jim Peniston touched a landed craft and later automatically wrote pages of ones and zeros. She sent Jeremy's drawings to Dr. Horace Drew, the geneticist who spent decades decoding binary messages in crop circles. And Dr. Drew spent weeks analyzing them, and what he discovered changed everything. So, okay, here's where it gets absolutely wild, because these weren't ordinary binary drawings at all, as you know them. Because Dr. Drew realized Jeremy was using an entirely new system he called multiplex binary. So multiple independent messages layered into the same simple grid. Like one message came from the shapes alone, you know? So for example, squares for 0, lines for 1, another from which squares were shaded in, a third from whether lines were thick or thin, sometimes capitalized, letters in the decoded text added even more. It was incredibly efficient, short drawings containing paragraphs of information. And the content? Like straight up warnings, like the very first one from that motel receipt, the morning after the encounter decoded to something like this: continuous protection of humanity, 4927 North, 115 East, expose hidden knowledge to all citizens. Advanced imperative for planetary survival, beware of Orion 1353 and Zeta Reticuli 39170. avoid signal messages sent. And the crazy thing is those coordinates pointed to an area near Nuremberg, site of the famous 1561 celestial battle, recorded in a historical woodcut where hundreds of people were watching strange objects fighting in the sky, fighting each other and having one of the probably biggest battles ever talked about. And Zeta Reticuli is exactly 3917 light years away. The same star system highlighted on the map Betty Hill drew after her abduction, back in her case. So warnings about Orion echoed the 2002 Crabwood crop circle with a grey alien face and the message "Beware the bearers of false gifts and their broken promises," pointing directly to Orion's belt. And hidden in capitalized letters? Check all AI. Remember, this was 2015, years before AI became everyday conversation as we have them now. So AI was not really existing back then for the normal people as we're using it now, you know, and that's crazy. It even mirrored phrasing from Jim Peniston's Randler-Sam binary code he received while allegedly touching symbols on this UAP. So words like continuous, humanity, advancement, coordinates are coming up there as well. And when Linda and Dr. Drew shared the first translations with Jeremy, it hit him actually like a train, you know, so like he told Linda it brought him to tears on the phone. This stuff was coming through him without his conscious control, imagine that, man. And it was coherent, specific and connected to historic cases, which is crazy. I mean, imagine that thing, you're waking up, writing that down, and it actually means something. But the messages didn't stop with that first one. They kept coming and they've got heavier. So one warned of an imminent threat soon upon Earth's leaders and civilizations. It means expose and disband hidden knowledge to all citizens. Employ safe and controlled joint study to all minds. Progression imperative for combined survival. And the capital's letter said Eisenhower and majestic. Maybe talking about the majestic 12 from back in the days? I don't know. Another one mentioned Bergoglio, Pope Francis' birth name, saying accept open and free keys. Decoders monitored use caution, which is definitely a bit of a warning in my opinion, that also the people that are now involved with decoding those messages are being watched. And it also said Rebel Temple for all, which reminded me of the Third Temple, I don't know, and return our gifts, topside destruction of early libraries, artifacts and structures. But one of those decodes stands out a lot, I find. And this one says Royal Emerther warning, expose foreign technology to all evolutionary advancement needed to prevent takeover. And Emerther is a name from older contactee literature referring to a benevolent race of friendly grey aliens, actually, as they found out. The common thread running through all of them was urgency. Humanity needs to advance quickly, share hidden knowledge openly or we won't survive what's coming. Not just as a species, but as a planet, which changes everything. And around the same time, Jeremy started having extremely vivid, what he calls flashbacks, you know? So like not fuzzy dreams, but like full sensory memories with smell, touch, you know, sounds, everything, crystal clear. He remembered being pulled out of the driver's side door while struggling and grunting, like looking over to see his wife frozen in time in the passenger seat, still staring up the craft. And he crossed invisible fields, that's what he described, like the first one brought total dead silence. The second one, sudden weightlessness and slow motion movement, while his mind stayed completely sharp though. And the next thing he knows is he's lying naked on a table, feeling sharp electric pains in his neck, you know, and lower back. And tall grey beings are around him. One that looks older is trying to calm him down telepathically, kind of relax, everything is okay. That's what he described. Another removes a black contact lens-like covering from its eye, revealing a larger but very human-like blue eye underneath. Later, flashbacks showed more variety, smaller greys, guiding him, you know, short but perfectly proportionate female beings with long hair who seemed in charge, kind of, and tall, blonde, Nordic looking types, you know, in the background, and even a brief glimpse of something that he called orc looking like in Lord of the Rings or something. So he said he got a strong impression of a cooperative council of 5 different species acting as protectors to us, he said. And in one scene, a human male, where Jeremy actually stated that that is very likely from some kind of an American institution. He didn't want to go into detail though. So, but yeah, this American looking guy was in some kind of jumpsuit and became agitated when he noticed Jeremy. So the guy was saying something like, why is he here? To one of the Greys and stuff like that. So he is coming up with a lot of crazy experiences. And that's not it, guys. Like, Jeremy is one of those guys where you are like, wow, this is crazy, but well, it gets even crazier, you know? So just when you think it can't get any weirder, Jeremy's like, hold my beer, I'll show you how it's done. Because these experiences left physical traces too. Because like one morning, Jeremy woke up with a perfect equilateral triangle of bruises on his thigh, you know? 3 marks spaced out exactly the same distance apart. Another time he had geometric puncture-like patterns inside one eye, but no vision damage at all. That's what he said, you know? And then in 2021, after bad abdominal pain that sent him to a military hospital, an MRI revealed a small metallic object embedded in his left hip. Dude, what? And what is crazy that it was pulsing at its own rhythm, completely different from his heartbeat. And he said the doctors were stunned and strongly urged the removal for study, you know, declassified stuff, but Jeremy refused, feeling it might be there for a reason, after he talked about it with his wife and Linda, you know. And yeah, like he's saying it's still there today. Me personally, I would definitely like to see those MRI pictures, man. I actually thought they would bring them up in the interview with Chris Ramsey, but for now they did not do that. Maybe he's saving them for later. I don't know, you'll be the judge. So the question that we probably all have now is, why coming out now?
And I'm really, really grateful for you coming forward. One last question for me would be, what made you come forward?
Originally, I wanted to protect my family and just kind of live my life. But you know, it's one of those things that I'm out of the military. I'm no longer in the military. I've still done some defense contracts, but I believe I'm going to start moving away from that and find another passion. This is why I throw that out, you know. And in order for me to do that, I need to be completely transparent with everyone. And so, yeah, the Sergeant First Class CJ. Yeah, CJ is a nickname. Crazy Jeremy. But I am Jeremy Weeks. So I'll come out and say it. It's I could lift the veil. It's time for me to move on and move forward. And the only way we move forward is by being open and transparent with everyone. Open and honest.
Well, I appreciate you very much, Jeremy. And the world thanks you as well.
If even a fraction of this is accurate, a protective council warning us that our grace period is ending, that threats from certain systems are real, that we need to evolve and share knowledge fast to avoid a takeover, then this is changing everything. So what do you think? Do these connections to historical events, crop circles and other cases make this harder to dismiss? Like, I don't know. Does the physical evidence carry weight for you at all, or does that all sound like bull to you? Definitely drop your thoughts below. I would really like to know them. And I definitely read them, and I'm gonna put the links into the description of Linda Moulton Howe's original interview and Dr. Drew's detailed analysis on his website, you know. So thank you so much for sticking with me through this long one. Stay open-minded, guys, and stay kind to each other, you know, and I see you in the next video, guys.